Alrighty, good morning everybody. It's Tuesday, June 28th, 2022. Let's go ahead and look at what happened here yesterday really quickly. Just want to point out that right after the open, we came right into our holy orange power level here. So here's the open, right where I'm hovering my cursor right now. You can see we tagged the OPL to the tick, pulled back, got a little bit of a push through it, and then another attempt to break out through it, and then that was it. And that OPL was 39.30 yesterday. It went up, what is that, 7 ticks against the level, and then that was it. That would have been the best trade of the day, taking the OPL short, which I don't know how many days in a row that happens where if you just took the OPL, regardless of whatever else was happening, it ends up turning out to be the best trade of the day. So there was perfect opportunity at the open there to give it a shot. If you left a 2 point stop, theoretically shouldn't have hit, right? Because it only went about 7 ticks against and then came back. So beautiful opportunity there. And then things just started selling off. So we came down, broke through the red power line that is our 50 or sorry low of the day before, broke down below it, came right to it, and there was another opportunity to short that. And then things came down. Let's see if there's anything else that was really great. Yeah, so we continued selling off and then eventually came right up to the back end of the 200 moving average, tagged it, and maybe pushed 2 or 3 ticks against it and sold off for just about 10 points exactly. So I took that myself, and as you can see, beautiful 10-point reaction from there. And then the bulls went ahead and held basically the 61.8 of the pullback there, so came down right into there, breached it by about a point or two, and then came up, went right to our major eye level here, just in front of the VWAP. So our expected area of potential support or resistance at 1650 turned into probably the second best trade of the day after the OPL there. Just a beautiful push right into it, and it literally broke by 1 tick or 2 ticks there, and then got this major pullback for let's see here, just about 17, 18 points. So beautiful opportunity there. And you can see when we started selling off from 1650, which I did get short at, it came back up right to the FMA and the SMA and went ahead and sold off. I got a little short off of there as well. So some pretty sweet setups, but the whole morning outside of the sell-off at the beginning was very, very sideways. So after that, you can see it kind of came back up and petered back and forth within the range. Came right back to the OPL. This is just amazing shit. Comes back to the OPL, tags it once, pulls back, holds the 200, comes back, almost tags it a second time, turns about 1 tick in front, and then that's it. Then look at that. Sells off, comes back up, hits the 200 and the low of the day before, and then sells off from there. So just really good stuff. Despite all the chop and the sideways stuff, a lot of these levels end up working really, really nicely. And so that was yesterday. A lot of sideways chop and some nice textbook holds of some of our levels. And then that's where it brings us into this morning. So you can see that in the overnight session, the bears tried to hold 1650 again. So another short from there with less than 2 points of risk would have given you the whole push down going into the overnight session of Globex there for, let's see, 38.85 for 30 points. So beautiful little push. And then from there, we're back into all the sideways chop from yesterday. So we're stuck inside of that right now. Not necessarily an ideal spot to be getting really heavy on the trading here. We'd ideally like to see this get a breakout one way or the other. So let's go ahead and jump up. We'll look at the daily chart and then start working down into our levels for this morning. So let me bring this up here. Go to our daily chart, and the daily basically looks the same as yesterday, except look at the candle that closed from yesterday here. Very bearish looking candle, huge wick to the upside. Way more than 50% of the candle is a wick to the upside. Somewhat of a bearish clue there, just like what we got down at the bottom of the move here. Looks like what we're getting at the top end. remember I said that we don't necessarily have a beautiful bearish divergence from yet the candle from 2 days ago's high that we were looking at coming into yesterday. And today it's basically the same thing. However, I will point out that if you look at the highs we made back on June 9th here, or even arguably the highs we made over here on June 10th, you could technically say if you look at the RVI here, where we were on RVI and where we are now, there's divergence, right? So you could say, and whoops, wrong one. You could say from that high right there, you've got divergence. You can also say from the 9th up here, you've got a divergence, right? This is where we were on the 9th on RVI, and now we're flat here. So we're basically the same level, but the price is much lower. So you could technically argue there's some divergence off of yesterday's high. And if that argument was to hold, we would have daily. The weekly, remember, we talked about on Monday, yesterday, does already show some bearish divergence from the highs of this week. And then we have the 4-hour, which showed a bearish divergence yesterday off the overnight high. And now coming into this morning we also have a bearish divergence off the overnight high on the 4-hour. Same thing on the 60-minute. We also on the 60-minute yesterday, coming into the open yesterday, had a bearish divergence. And now this morning we also have a bearish divergence off the overnight high. So looks very similar to yesterday. And actually yesterday I had so many levels that I wanted to get through here that I totally forgot to point out and emphasize that we did have 4-hour, hourly, and shorter time frame bearish divergences from the overnight high. And also on the weekly, the only time frame that wasn't really showing it was our daily chart. So what I should have told you guys coming into the open yesterday was that we did have a huge confluence of bearish signals, so we could expect a sell-off. That would be a good expectation, and I would have looked like a profit because the market did, as we saw, sell off, and you could have shorted the top end of a lot of the levels and gotten beautiful trades. But hey, what can I say? Sometimes you overlook something even though it's there. You don't emphasize it, and then had you have emphasized it, you would have looked like an absolute psychic or something. So anyway, this morning we do see the 4-hour, the 60-minute, somewhat of an argument on the daily, and then obviously a beautiful weekly bearish divergence from the highs again. So like yesterday where we kind of sold off but then stayed sideways, this morning could be a very similar situation. We do have, from a news perspective, consumer confidence coming out at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, which might have a little bit of an effect. We do have Fed speak all throughout the day, and then tomorrow we have Powell speaking right around the open, about just 30 minutes before the open. So maybe that will have some type of influence, but right now that's what I'm seeing from a signals perspective off of the highs that we're seeing here. So now let's talk about all the levels we're going to deal with here. And the nice part about this morning is there's really not much to talk about from a levels perspective, at least as far as anything new. There's really not anything new that we need to focus on. If you look here, if the market does not hold the overnight low, which got a nice little bullish divergence here on the hourly, if that doesn't hold, and that low is 38.8575, then we're looking at a push down right to fill the gap from the opposite side again, to come back down to the bottom end of the gap there. And then we have our major eye level here. So we have a little pocket of potential support. And then from there, it's back into all the levels I talked about yesterday. 38.53 with a little bit, maybe a 1-point range there. You can see I shaded in there. So right there, we've got our swing high at 42.75. We've got the other major swing here at 34, down into the first major retracement at 30. We've got our major eye level 38.22. We've got 38.12 and 07 quarter, both really relevant levels back from a few days ago. We've got the major retracement here at 37.93 half. The other swing high being just below 07 quarter gives us a little 2-point pocket right there. We've also got 37.82 up to the swing high from a few days earlier back there. So 37.82 to about 83.5. And then we got the major eye level, and then the next major fib level down here at just about 37.56.75. Any further, and again, it's all the same stuff, 37.35, 37.09 minor eye level up to the major swing at 37.13, give or take. So 09 to 13. We've got 36.90, 36.81, 36.62, and so on. And again, all these levels we talked about yesterday and last week to the downside. So that's what we have below us here. If the bearish divergences from the highs do follow through, we could expect there to be potential support off of these levels. On the other side of things, if the bulls go ahead and rip through all this, and remember, getting through tonight's overnight high and getting through the overnight high from yesterday opens us right up into 39.84, and this little shaded area between the major retracement back up around 39.88. So we've got a little 4-point range here, and let me just make sure that this is out to 3 p.m. for today. Okay, perfect. So we've got that. And then remember, there's that little box. If they get through that major eye level, there is 39.97, but then this box here, we went ahead and outlined the extremes and the relevant levels inside of it. So remember those from yesterday, and then 40.42, and then it's all the way up to the next major eye level area, major structure zone, right here at 40.81 with a swing low sitting here at 40.74. So, and then everything above that, again, we talked about in previous sessions. So nothing has changed up there. So that's basically it for our pre-market here. We do have a pretty good confluence of bearish signals from our highs. In fact, a little bit more weight on the bearish signals than we do on any of the bullish signals from the overnight low. So that would tell me there's a little bit more of an expectation for a pullback this morning to come down and test the overnight low, if not break it and come down lower. That doesn't have to happen. I have to make this caveat every time I say something. The market's going to do what it's going to do. It's sometimes unpredictable. So even though the expectation would be for a pullback, doesn't mean it has to happen. So if the bulls jump back in and they start ripping it higher, I told you what we'd be targeting here to the upside. So have a great trading morning, and we'll be back tomorrow as usual. We're going to jump down to our short time frame here and see what kind of setups we can grab here this morning. Just because we were zoomed out and didn't see it, I'll also point out we've got the previous daily low here, the previous daily high, and then turns out that 50% of yesterday and our holy orange power level are very close together here coming into this morning. Doesn't always have to be that way. Sometimes this OPL is way far out compared to some of the other levels, but today they're nice and tight. And once again, before I leave you this morning, remember, yesterday was a major chop fest, although it did trend lower and there were some great short opportunities, very choppy and sideways. And this morning, we're still stuck within all of the chop of yesterday. So trading within here could be a little bit messy. Ideally, we want to see them start trending one way downward to break the low of the overnight and come lower, or break higher and get through the high of yesterday. So that's where we stand. I will see everybody tomorrow. Take care.